Business Matters. The title suggests many things. The important issue is the world revolves around business, society, organizations, individuals, and even religion survives and thrives because of business. Business has to encompass not just financial commodity and service transactions. It has also to include welfare, justice, empowerment, environmental, and other issues too. Every week, Business Matters will delve into aspects of business that impact our lives. We will seek out extraordinary and ordinary people who have done extraordinary things. Facilitators, educators, and entrepreneurs will be invited to inspire and enlighten our listeners. Join Anwar Mullah for an interactive show and find out what really matters in business.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. It's Tuesday evening once again, and it's the Business Matters program on Radio Al Ansar with me, Anwar Mullah. It's 8:37, and as normal in the studio with me is Imran Mullah. Imran, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, and lovely to be in studio once again.
A week of relative peace, alhamdulillah. Lots of rumors flying around of more violence to come. Inshallah, we are protected from that, and that those does not materialize to be any truth in that. We have
a few gold medals and silver medals as well.
A few gold and silvers in the Olympics. A bit of a distraction from what's carrying on in our lives. Yes, swimming especially. And some disappointments as well, especially in the 100 meters.
Unfortunate.
Yes. The number in the studio, once again, 0861904904. The WhatsApp number, 06090411056. If you've got any questions on our forthcoming topic. And as normal, this program is brought to you by the Minara Chamber of Commerce. Our guest this evening doesn't need any introduction to Radio Ansar. He's been on air many times. A real community activist, if I can call him that, a person that's taken the bull by the horns and done something and continues to do something to help the community, especially in the initiatives following the looting. The man we're going to speak to tonight is the CEO of Al Barakah Bank, none other than Mr. Shabir Chouhan himself. And we have Shabir on the line. Shabir, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program and welcome to Radio Al Ansar.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you very much, Imran and Anwar. And thank you for having me on your show.
Shabir, we're talking to you tonight. You wear many caps, but we're talking to you tonight on the REHOP initiative. Something that some organizations have come together, and you will tell us more about it, to try to do something to assist those that have been affected by the unfortunate recent looting that we have. Shabir, tell us a little bit about the REHOP initiative. Why did this come to mind, and how you've managed to band some organizations together to get involved in this initiative?
Anwar, thank you very much. I'm in my capacity as the coordinator of REHOP. The initial discussion was with Zubair Musa. He called me one Saturday, about 2.5 weeks ago, and indicated that, listen, we need to do something to assist the businesses that are affected by the recent unacceptable looting and rioting that took place. In the discussion, the issue that came out was that, we can't do the same thing we did before with the Giving for Hope Foundation, which was established at the beginning of the pandemic. At that point in time, we've been successful with that initiative, but it was a very structured initiative, and it achieved a number of positive objectives, but it never meet all the requirements. So then we had a discussion and said, listen, if we really want to do something, let's get some organizations together and let's work together. And 2 weeks ago on a Sunday evening, we met 6 organizations, and one came in subsequently. We have a discussion, and the initiative was called the Rebuilding for Hope and Prosperity.
Is that where the name REHOP comes from?
Was born.
Okay.
And from that 2-week period, we were amazed by how much of work that was done, and how the publicity on this just became on everyone's lips to have a look at exactly what we've done in terms of that.
Okay, I mean, you mentioned the name of Zubair Musa, quite an amazing individual in his own right. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us tonight, but I'm sure to get him on the program at some subsequent date. Zubair has really been outstanding in taking the bull by the horn, and due to many of the contacts that he has, and as well as being the many businesses that they run as a family, been able to do a lot for the community, starting from the COVID initiative that you spoke about last year, going through now to the latest one being REHOP. Certainly, a feather in his cap that he hasn't just sat back and done nothing, but really has got involved, especially also with the NMJ initiative, etc., of milk, bread, things. And we can go on. But I'm sure he also keeps you on your toes in terms of getting you involved in quite a few of the initiatives.
Well, the one that I got involved in was the one with Giving for Hope Foundation last year. I'm one of the 4 trustees with obviously three other people. But he's been the backbone of that initiative, and he played a very important role. And now more recently, this initiative with REHOP. And for people that know Zubair, I think the commitment and the time that he puts into initiatives is simply amazing. He goes all out. There's no half measures with him. And when he sees things through, he makes sure he achieves all his objectives. So I think, yes, he probably keeps everyone on the toes, but for the right reasons.
Alhamdulillah. Excellent to see that we have people like that in our community. It gives us a lot of strength to go forward. Shabir, talking about REHOP itself, apparently it's a vehicle to rebuild Durban's economy on a micro level. What assistance will be made available?
So just before going to that, the assistance is there. When we met on the 18th of July to say, listen, we need to do something, at that point in time, what was in the news was the burning down of the Sipingo market. That was very topical. It was very sad to kind of listen to people petrol bombing a market that was responsible for creating jobs. So at that point in time when we met, we said, listen, the first project we want to get involved in is the iconic Sipingo market. Can we go and find out more details on this and see where this takes us? At the same time, there was also a discussion about hosting a microfinance seminar or webinar.
Right.
And that was also initiated and planned. And on the 26th of July, we had this webinar that was addressed by 4 speakers. It was Jamil Abbas from the Baitul Mal Tamwil in Indonesia, Dr. Amjad Saqib from Kuwait, Pakistan, and I think if anyone read about them, they've done amazing work in terms of interest-free financing. Dr. Faith Kanyele, she was from the Women's Development Bank, and Muhammad Kaka, who was involved with the Giving for Hope Foundation, and he just gave some insights in terms of what to do and what not to do. So that webinar took place on the 26th of July. At that point in time, we were still engaged with the eThekwini municipality. We had meetings the next day. That was a Tuesday. And what came out was that they wanted to someone to rebuild the market that was destroyed in Sipingo. But saying that just before that, we had the assistance of Jamil Sheikh from MDEB. He went across to the market, he had a look at it, did some videos, came back, and he suggested that, listen, don't go and rebuild this market, but perhaps get 2 containers in there to help people to administer, because that's where the officials did not have a space to work with. Based on his report, within 2 or 3 days, we managed to source the containers, make contact with the eThekwini municipality, and then last week, Saturday, the containers were delivered to the market, and then you'll see the pictures that have been doing the rounds.
Yes.
The one section of it has been destroyed. And what we plan to do, and that's your question that you asked, was the first thing is we've identified that there's about 200 hawkers in the Isipingo area. Out of the 200, we wanted to focus on the fruit and vegetable hawkers, which is about 40, and we're starting off with 5 of the 40. So the 4 or 5 hawkers were on site on Saturday, had a discussion with them, tried to find out how they operate. We even took a walk in Isipingo to see how the modus operandi is, how the people operate. And for these hawkers, the first objective is to provide them with a grant, outright grant.
Right.
It's going to be a nominal amount, just to start off them with that. But when we had discussions with them, one of the issues that came out also is that they go and buy fruits and vegetables from the Clearwood market. They're buying it from secondary sources. They don't have a proper card. They don't have an account at the Clearwood market. So as we speak right now, we're trying to arrange for them to get registered at the Clearwood market so they can buy the fruits and vegetables
Directly.
At a cheaper price. We're planning to offer training. So the discussions are taking place at this point in time with the Ethiopian municipality and the hawkers. I think one of the big things is, Anwar, if we provide training to them, and from that 40, that people emerge that will have more entrepreneurial skills, then these people can go to the next level.
Each of them will end up having an account.
Have a look at the initial assistance, identify people that are more entrepreneurial, give them the support, and just get them to grow their businesses even further. Once this is done, then we're going to look at what the next stage is. But this is not only the micro businesses that we're looking at. Depending on funding that's available, we'll also look at other businesses that are much bigger and that's going to be creating jobs. I think the whole intention of this is job creation, maintenance of jobs, giving people a sense of self-worth, and just getting them back on the road.
It's an absolutely fantastic initiative, and we all know, and it's very sad, that the Isipingo community has been one of the hardest hit communities. So it's great to see that the initiative is being done in the Isipingo region and some form of aid is making its way through to the community. You mentioned that the plan is to start with 5 hawkers, and that will allow them to get back on their feet and start trading, and the initiative of growing their businesses, not only with funding, but also with training and skills from the background. What other initiatives does the REHOP Foundation have in mind?
I think 5 is the number that was present there on Saturday. The first stage is to help 40 hawkers.
Wow, okay.
That's
so
great.
The 40 is what we're commencing with. The 5 were just available because, remember, we went on a normal business day, which is a Saturday.
Right.
And the people are trading, and we didn't want to take them away from what they're doing at the moment. So when this takes off, we want to extend the assistance to hawkers at other business centers. So I only came to know about the fact that there's similar SMMEs centers, that the one that we saw in Isipingo, throughout Durban. There's about 8 or 9 of them. The Ethiopian municipality is very excited about us getting involved and obviously bringing our skills in there. But it's not just giving them a grant, thereafter giving them a loan, and that loan will increase as we go along, depending on the payment. But it's also to give them skills in terms of savings, in terms of making sure that they're introduced to the banking sector, that they have bank accounts. Yes, we did confirm a couple of the people that we spoke to have got bank accounts, but some of them do not have bank accounts. And I think looking at their progression from doing very informal type of business and to see how they can kind of go to the next level. So I think from an initiative point of view, there'll be various aspects, but we also just finalizing how funding will be provided to other businesses that have been affected by not having insurance, as an example. But obviously, all of this depends on donors coming across. And at the same time, how much of funding that we have in the kitty or in the bank.
Exactly.
For that. But it's going to be a different model that we're trying to adopt, a model that's going to be more donor-orientated, people coming across and saying, listen, we want to give funds to that particular business, we want to help them out. And that's where the 7 organizations are going to come together to see how they can assist in that regard.
Okay, Shabir, I mean, amazing work, fantastic. You mentioned none of this can be done without finance, obviously. The finance is, they say money, money, money. It's a rich man's world. So bottom line, you've got 7 organizations, would you? They all play their part. You want to talk us through who some of these organizations are and what role they're playing in all of this?
So the 7 organizations, the first is the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers.
That's Amal.
The second is Amal. The second is Growing Hands Enterprise. And
we're going to be speaking to
someone a bit later.
Yeah, we're going to speak to Harun
The third
Pochi.
is the Minara Chamber of Commerce. The fourth is Muslims for Humanity, and you mentioned Zubair Musa's name, and he chairs that organization. The fifth is the OCAF, or the National OCAF Foundation of South Africa. The sixth is the South African Muslim Charitable Trust. And the seventh is the United Ulama Council of South Africa. And for me, that's quite important because the UCSA represents a number of Islamic organizations in the country, and for them to come on board, it's got the support of the religious scholars.
Absolutely. Shabir, you met some of these people. You said you met some of about 5 of these people at the Spingo market. What was some of the stories that came out of there in terms of their livelihoods and the type of appreciation? Was there really an appreciation for what you guys are trying to do for them?
There was an interview that was conducted. I think there is a video that's going to make its rounds with the 4 people that we interviewed. From what was translated to me on the interviews, they were very grateful for the support. They were looking forward. They thanked the business community to lift them up. They made reference to some of the devastation that has actually occurred because of the rioting and looting. And, I mean, it was totally unacceptable, the devastating impact that such conduct has had on people's livelihoods. But I think generally the sentiment was one of support for it. These are the people that's going to monitor the success of this among the other hawkers. And I think it's very gratifying. And it's this kind of work that's very much needed to get more employment in the country.
This is a great initiative, and the whole country has banded together after this looting to try and rebuild South Africa. And it's fantastic to see. If any of the listeners, this being a community initiative, if any of the listeners would like to pitch in, be it with skills or financing, how can one get involved?
Okay, so we're putting information, I think, on most of the social media platforms, and all this was done within in the last week. Twitter, the Facebook,
Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
If you can just follow what's going on there. At this point in time, we want to make sure that this initiative is sustainable. And the reason I'm saying that, as you know, there's a lot of times people start off initiatives and the thing will just fizzle out. So we're being cautious. We're getting a number of calls coming through in terms of assistance. There's a university professor that called us today and said, listen, I want to get involved in this initiative. How can I assist? And this is a passion of mine. And we're looking at it and looking at places where they can get involved. So I think if anybody wants to get involved, if they can just communicate to us via the social media platforms, we'll have a look at that. We are going to open up at some stage, and we don't want to do it now although we had a request for people to come across and say, listen, we want to donate funds and tell us what the account number is. I think we want to formalize the structures. We want to make sure that we've got processes in place, that these funds can be used effectively. For example, organizations like Akuwat, which I mentioned, they're one of the biggest organizations in Pakistan area. They've come across and they've indicated that they want to make available to us all the training material that they're using. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they've helped out something like 1 million people in Pakistan in businesses. But I think for the South African public, please, if they can just watch the social media space, and we will advise them. I think everyone can play a role. Everyone can play a role in terms of, one is the donations when we open it up. The second issue is to come up with ideas as to how the hawkers and the business community and the micro businesses and SMMEs can extend themselves and get bigger. Whether it's going to be supplying goods at a cheaper price to them, it's in all our interest for the micro businesses and SME market to be very strong. I think once that happens, then it will result, inshallah, in a strong economy.
Excellent. Shabir, from a bank's perspective, I mean, just on a parting note, I mean, obviously you would have had customers, clients of the banks, long-standing clients that would have lost a lot in this whole looting, whatever. Really, I suppose your heart goes out to them. It must be quite a tough time for you at the bank at the moment.
I think it's very similar to when the pandemic started and businesses were closed. A number of businesses were affected. And I think the institutions do come to the assistance of the clients. I think when the clients require your assistance, you need to make it available. There's a number of businesses where the premises were destroyed, some of them outright destroyed. A number of them had branches that were destroyed. There were businesses that had their stock destroyed.
Sure.
And in addition to that, you had businesses that were supplying businesses that were destroyed.
Right.
So I think from an institution point of view, although this REHOP is not a bank initiative,
sure.
From a banking perspective, yes, we need to come to the assistance of our clients and to make sure that they also restore their confidence, restore their businesses, and in a very quick way come back to normality. Because the big thing that's facing us, let's be quite honest about it, is job creation. Our economy was knocked with the pandemic, and now we're having a second major event, which was the rioting and the looting that took place. So I think all of us have to play a role to make sure that we're getting to normality as quickly as possible.
Excellent. Shabir, on that note, I think we'll have to conclude for the 9 o'clock news. Thank you so much. We wish you all the very best with the REHOP initiative. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about the REHOP and the various organizations that are involved. And alhamdulillah, I think as a community initiative, and we thank you, we thank the likes of the people with you, you know what, we can only make dua that this REHOP initiative goes from strength to strength.
Ameen.
Anwar, Imran, thank you very much for hosting us or hosting me. And inshallah, let's play all of us play our role in building our country, building our city, building our communities. I think very importantly, for the benefit of all South Africans, we need that. And inshallah, let's be successful in that.
Ameen. We have from Growing Hands, Harun Pochi. And Harun needs no introduction. We did do an interview with Harun a few weeks ago on his passion that he has been involved with for many, many years, and that's Rosh Gold and the Rosh Gold associated companies. But today we're talking to Harun about REHOP. Harun, assalamu alaikum, and again, welcome to Radio Al Ansar.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. And thank you, Anwar, and also greetings to your listeners and Imran as well.
Harun, wa alaikum assalam. Thanks for joining us. We did speak to Shabir earlier on. He gave us some insight into REHOP and the type of work that they're doing and that they hope to do in the future. I just want to again mention the 7 organizations that are involved in REHOP, and that is the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers, better known as AMAL, the Growing Hands Enterprise Development NPC, that's you and your organization, Harun, which we'll talk to you about just now, the Minara Chamber of Commerce. And the Minara Chamber of Commerce we know well because they actually are the hosts of this program which we present, and Minara involved in many initiatives in the Durban and surrounding community. Muslims for Humanity, headed up by Zubair Musa and his crew. The National Oka Foundation, I think that's Zainul and them out in and Harun, you could correct me if I'm wrong. The South African Muslim Charitable Trust and the United Ulama Council of South Africa. Varied organizations from different backgrounds, but all playing a very, very important part. Harun, Growing Hands Enterprise Development, you want to give us a little bit of a background to this organization. Where did it start, your involvement in it, and what has it been doing up to and including now?
Anwar, we started Growing Hands in 2012, where we primarily looked at ways to support growing businesses. We were lending a hand. So in what sense? Basically, firstly, is funding for small business, home businesses, and micro businesses. So up to an amount of 50,000 rand, we could advance, and they pay back. So it's a loan.
So it's a loan.
No cost. Gee.
No loan, no interest, no profit.
No interest, correct. And it's based on the concept of Qarda Hasana, which Akuwat also does, which means that it's basically the equivalent of giving a loan to Allah. And the benefits of that is you can't see the benefits because Allah rewards you in more ways than which you will understand. So that's the funding side of it. But to get the businesses to grow, they need education, they need mentoring, they need support. And that is what we coupled with the funding side of it. So what happened from 2013 right up to 2015, 2016, we funded businesses, and we held a 8-week session on training for entrepreneurs at the University of Johannesburg. We got professionals to come in and present on their expertise. So with the result that it got us to the next level, and that was the starting of the Young Business Achievers Award, which is a Royce Gold thing. So once a year we run the competition where entrepreneurs under the age of 37 enter their companies. They get judged by a panel of judges who are business people, bankers, social entrepreneurs, and there's a criterion, a matrix by which they judge and come out and win. So again, in that regard, businesses like Chili Chop Chefs, then Mariam Manak's I think it's called iTrain.
Yes, iTrain.
In Durban, they were there. I'm just thinking, and another Durban popular business, Pedro's. They were 3 winners, you know.
Yes, Pedro's a fast-growing franchise as well, yes.
Correct, yes.
Well, Harun, we've always known you as a person that's really passionate and deeply involved in community initiatives. I mean, I know you from, I think, in the 80s or early 90s, and you've always had the community at heart. And we applaud you, firstly, for the Growing Hands Enterprise Development NPC, for what you're doing in terms of upskilling the young entrepreneurs and also providing this grant without any cost involved. And may that grow well in the future. But, I mean, we based here in KZN, you based in the Transvaal, and sometimes it's very easy to adopt an attitude of at an arm's length. This whatever has happened in KZN hasn't affected us, so why should we get involved? But we applaud you again for getting involved in this REHOP initiative. And tell us what made you get involved in the REHOP initiative? What made you get Growing Hands involved in the REHOP initiative?
Basically, again, it goes back to the beginning of COVID, where Muslims for Humanity was set up. So at that stage, we presented the Throwing Hands model to them to say this could be an option for you to follow,
Right.
And then the second thing is that even though KZN is effective now,
Right.
in about 1984, 85, we had Everton riots, which was in the Val Triangle.
Yes.
And, all the traders, business guys from there, and even the residents from the community had to move across into Roshni because they lost everything. People virtually walked out with their clothes, which is similar to what we experienced in KZN in the past 2 weeks. So, it as a humanitarian, I just think that it touches a very raw nerve because I know what our community people went through at the time. And obviously with our relationship with Muslims for Humanity, with Al Baraka Bank, Awqaf, it just lent itself to join the initiative and make a difference.
Absolutely. And on that note, we in KZN are deeply, deeply thankful to all of you in Gauteng. There were truckloads of food and, you name it, and it was being brought in. People that escorted the trucks in personally sacrificed their families in terms of leaving home, not knowing because the situation was so fluid, how safe it was to come through or not safe. And yet took the chance, really, the sacrifices that you guys made there to help us has been unbelievable. It brings tears to my eyes to say that we one brotherhood, one ummah, but to see the initiative and the help that came through from out of this province to help the people in this province. And we hope we don't have to reciprocate at some stage, but inshallah, that we are there for each another if something like this would ever happen in the Transvaal.
When you look at the initiative of REHOP, it basically mirrors what you're talking. That it is only through a united effort that you can achieve anything of scale and also of meaningful difference. Just think of it, my organization, whether it's Growing Hands, whether it's my community people like Roshni Relief. But,
Right.
Without the sort of link up to Muslims for Humanity or the Jamiyat in KZN, we're useless. And it's really in that cooperation that we find that we can make a meaningful difference in what can happen. So just getting back to what Shabir spoke about, training of these helpers. Our experience on training, our experience with Awqaf, with Siafunda on running training programs in Gauteng, in our area, the Val Triangle. Our experience with Awqaf has been partners in the Young Business Achiever Award. Just gives us, and also with Al Baraka, gives us that, how can you say, the common objective of doing good for the benefit of the community. And that, I think, is what makes the real impact in what we're trying to achieve.
Yes, and Harun, you've always been the type of person that's gone with the acronym that, you give a person a fish and he'll eat for a day, but you teach a person to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. And that comes through quite clearly in a lot of your initiatives, whether it's at Rosh Goal and now at Growing Hands Enterprise Development. You want to talk to us a little bit about some of the success stories that you have seen in terms of these initiatives?
Gee, very simple. Last year at the beginning of the COVID, one of the associates we deal with, they were short of cash in terms of continuing their business because they had some fast food operations. So we extended the loan to them, interest-free, and said you pay that whenever you can. And basically what has happened is that they've not only survived the closures in terms of the lockdowns, but they've also paid back that loan, and they're now trading back at a reasonable level. Then we had housewives where we funded equipment. One particular one was an imported machine from India,
Right.
So we had to pay up front, get the machine in, make sure it's operating, and it's ready. I think it was worth about 22,000 or 23,000. So that worked out well. Then we did a lot of work amongst the local indigenous Muslim community.
Right.
And there, again, because it's a grant type of or loan, we had a high incidence of people not paying. But because we have donors who are willing to back us up, we've been able to do that. Then we helped a guy with a truck worth 80,000 there, and he was doing a transport business. So these are things that come to mind. The other side of it is that when we ran those training programs, people that hadn't realized their skill levels in terms of presenting the program, we had people, 80, 90 people coming in on a Saturday morning once a month to be able to get their training, or if it was on a bi-weekly basis.
Right.
That concept was carried on further with webinars last year, the year before, with the YDA participants. So we've developed a nice network, and that's also a positive one.
Yes, Arun, sometimes we sit back and think, only 50,000 rands, it's not a lot of money and it won't go too far. But in all of these cases that you've cited, and there must be many, many, many more, it's not a lot of money, but it's got people to kind of get off the ground.
That's very true. And just think of this, because this is something that really motivates us in doing it. That man, if he's got to go to a bank, and our experience with a lot of the commercial exchanges. Now, I say a lot of our experiences with commercial organizations,
yes,
is that most of these type of businesses don't have balance sheets, don't do management accounts. You can't do a proper credit assessment. And what you're basing your criteria on is their ability to repay and their honesty and sincerity in using this for the benefit of the business and prepaying back to the organization. So what happens is that when you look at that happening, it may not be a lot of money, but it helps them achieve that first step towards independence or their own business. And I'm sure if you look in the community, I know so many people have enjoyed such benefit where they go to a friend and say, look, I need to buy this parcel. Have you got a 20 grand or a 30 grand and I'll pay you?
Right.
And that's how our business community flourished in the 60s, because everybody was working for a wholesaler or a boss or a manufacturer. But then the guys started with small part-time businesses on the side, and they've developed, and today there are some very successful businesses out of it.
Harun, it takes me back to when we hear some of the older people in the community talking about the 1950s and the 60s, and the common thread that comes out is they say if there was a Muslim trader that was in trouble for whatever reason, bad debts or whatever, but the person got into trouble, the other traders would rally around and say, come and take goods or help him in whatever way to uplift him. And unfortunately, as a community, we kind of reached a stage where we got selfish, and then the opposite happened, where if there was a guy that was battling, you kind of tramped him until you made sure that he didn't come up again, so that he was never going to be competition to you. But alhamdulillah, if some good has come out of the pandemic and this looting and things that have taken place is, Alhamdulillah, we now realize that we need to be there, support each another and help each another. And don't view each another as competition. That's not what it's all about.
100%. You've been to Makkah, Medina, or even in India, and you'll see the same 20 shops. In the old days in Grey Street, you had men's outfitters next to one another, and each one had his rosy cut out, and he made a living for his family.
Absolutely, and many of them sold the same things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what that also leads to, which is very philosophical in a sense, is that, and this looting and COVID has taught us that, we're not in control. The control lies with Allah Ta'ala,
Absolutely. We have to have the faith and the yaqeen in that.
Correct.
Okay.
Gee.
That's a fantastic initiative, and I love the philosophy of transferring skills and uplifting people rather than just giving them a handout. If the community would like to get involved in the form of finance or skills, or even if there's a business out there that's listening and requires some assistance, how can one get in touch?
I think that's very easy. One is you could contact us through REHOP,
Okay.
which is managed or administered through the Minara offices, and people can contact Amina Hanif in that regard. If they need to contact me, they can get my number from Amina. We're raising funds via OCAF at the moment. So, you could go into OCAF's accounts. That also, Amina or OCAF would be able to give you info on that. And we're busy sorting the training side of it out now to see what we can do with the hawkers at a level that would be applicable to their businesses and the nature of their operations.
Excellent. Harun, we've reached the end of time, unfortunately. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for giving up part of your evening for us. And again, a big congratulations on the Growing Hands enterprise. Thank you for getting involved with REHOP. Thank you for helping in the KZN area. And you can pass on our appreciation and thanks to all of those that are involved with you and the various organizations in the Gauteng area that have come to the assistance of KZN in our time of need. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullah khair to you as well, and shukran for the opportunity. And we ask as many of our business people to help support this initiative and also at the same time deliver meaningful help and assistance.
Absolutely. Thanks for those wise words, Harun. And with that, we come to the end of another Business Matters program. Inshallah, we'll be back again next week, Imran, for what I think is going to be a great program. But I don't want to announce anything now because we're still tying up our guests. So
no spoiler alerts.
We no spoilers, yeah. So with that, Jazakallah for being with us on the Business Matters program. We say thank you to Shabir Chouan and Harun Pochi that were our guests for tonight. And inshallah, we'll see you again next week. With that, it's wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.